Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one, the final gameplay of Season 10, I want to set you all up for Season 11 by having a real classical review of a challenger game that shows you how to carry but within the context of what does it mean to be a jungler. This is a fluid concept depending on the game state, and it really centers around the concept of ganking, objective focus, and of course stopping the enemy jungler. There's a lot in between those three things, of course, and there are certainly unnatural junglers that don't fit these molds, you know, like a Karthus. But in 99% of the games you play, you will have to impact the game in these three core ways. And usually how well you do each of them is how hard you can carry. So as always, please do like and subscribe if you enjoy and of course learn something. And don't forget to join me on Planet 9 for giveaways, tournaments, and coaching. And now without hesitation, let's begin. Right, Conqueror Lee Sin, Fleetfoot War Graves. Honestly, can we just remove him from the meta already? I feel like this is just the stamp collector of jungling. No offense to those who collect stamps, but to no one's surprise, both junglers are starting on the Rebirth with a mega leash. Now first up, you must know your game plan to get level 3. If you are a level 2 ganker, understand where you want to go first. In order to do that, you need to know your jungle route as well as the enemy's supposed jungle route, a link for that in the description below. But most importantly, you must be able to adapt immediately and without hesitation to inflict the strongest alpha move onto the enemy forester. That's a roundabout way of saying if Graves shows bot lane after the red buff for some Gorgonzola level cheese, don't do your Krugs, immediately head to his blue and snipe it away along with the Grump. A casual reminder that the Season 11 Grump will be self-regenerating, which makes sense considering his immense thickness. Now Graves most likely will take the whole blue side after that gank, so the Lee Sin should really do the same, which is only fair considering it's a modern application of the Hammurabi code. An eye for an eye, a blue buff for a blue buff. Now before we get really into the meat and gravy of this game, it might seem a bit one-sided at a certain point, but the gold lead was dead even until 14 minutes, and it shows the importance of how a game state can appear versus what it actually is. Now when Graves inevitably dies the bottom lane after securing the blue and the Grump, Lee Sin can either look for top lane impact or mid lane impact, or simply rotate down knowing that vertical jungling will result in a bad situation for his bottom lane and thus helping to get any sort of cleanup, denying Graves a crab. Anything like this will help set up an objective focus while stopping the enemy jungler as well as impacting lanes with ganks and counter ganks. And because all of you are big brain enthusiasts, you will realize, hey, wait a second, these are the three facets that I mentioned at the start of the video. All set up within the first 3 minutes. Clean up the kills, chase down the set as well, take the crab, and now you know that Graves will be pathing topside, only to be disappointed by your thievery, and this sets up a nice easy gank on the bottom lane, and this should be your focus. Because remember, killing laners is the only thing you and your teammates have in common. They want bot to die, you want bot to die, so in conclusion, to paraphrase Impact, bot die. And everyone's happy. And due to this, Lee Sin has an option of going back to base, which he does. Now from here, does he go to top lane or to bottom lane? The answer to this wasn't as simple as the last few videos. There are two schools of thought. You can go bot side to get tier 2 Grump, Dragon, Wolves, make sure bot is super ahead with another gang, but then we would let the enemy jungler freely take our camps on the top side. I don't know about you, but when a farming jungler versus an early game jungler gets freebies, that's just the kind of thing that ruins your day. So instead, head top lane, contest the Krugs, push him off, almost kill him, use the time that he's using to go and execute himself to have a very nice flowing gank into the mid lane. Remember, look around, F keys, click around, rotate when you can, and then follow that up with a mutual counter jungling of the Raptors and Krugs. At this point, you will have to be very fluid. With your timings, with your abilities, watch bottom lane, do you have prio? Know the enemy jungler was just topside and so will most likely path directly bottom lane. You must know how fast you farm and how you plan on escaping if you find your Sonic Wave in the cookie jar. And if the enemy Silas decides he doesn't like being challenger and face checks the enemy jungler despite knowing that he's there, well, we take those. But please don't over chase for anything else. Take what you were owed, but don't take more. And that wasn't a KDA reference, but let's put it in there anyway. So yeah, just a little bit of greed there. But you're seeing it, not focusing on his own farm, focus on lane pressure and stifling the enemy jungler. Yes, you do have to farm as well. Yes, you might be a farming jungler who can rinse and repeat very quickly and still do these things, and that's why this Lee Sin has Tiamat. That's why you see things like Tiamat Kayn. Sure, it gives you a bit of an active to use in certain situations, but mostly it just allows you to farm camps very quickly while maintaining map pressure. And this lane pressure and the stifling of the enemy jungler, not letting him free farm or freely impact the map, is one of the biggest ways to carry games. Now Graves greatly benefits from Orianna doing a Silas, and now Lee Sin decides to head to the red buff. It's time to step up the pace and take the early game to the next level. Take your Raptors, get your ult, invade the blue buff again. Graves can either go bottom side for Dragon, taking his red, looking to get objective control, or he can try and regain control of his jungle because, like Lee Sin, he wants to control the enemy jungler. Unfortunately, Lee Sin is ahead thanks to his superior plans, solo kills Graves who face checks and now translates this into objective control. As our favorite movie film director is saying lately, is very nice. Now, Graves went to blue, he died, sadness occurred, lost the Herald, therefore he will head bottom lane. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Although around here we do appreciate people with advanced astro degrees. Lee Sin has a roaming support. Now I understand most of you might not have this, but if both teams have a roaming support or both teams don't, the universe is balanced as it should be. Lee Sin is in his blue side jungle, gives the blue to Orianna as a faithful jungle companion on the Korean server. Graves in the meantime is ganked to bottom side. Our protagonist here uses a bit of patience to wait, counter gank and ensure the Graves dies. This prevents any flirtatious dragon intent and therefore cannot be secured. Kills into objectives. Lee Sin, mid, Herald drop for golden riches, directly back to the Drake to try and finish before Graves shows. If you don't have lane prio and it's a bad fight, give it up. And that goes for both junglers. Lee has prio, so the Graves should focus on controlling his own jungle and not inting for the first dragon. But this is the way. The most important aspect of any gameplay I talk about is controlling your farm during objective and gank downtime, and it is most vital, but don't face check when you know the Graves is there, you've seen it. Again, a bit of ego and greed to try and 1v1 knowing the Sylas is there. If this isn't a guaranteed shutdown of the enemy jungler, if it doesn't win a gank or a fight, and it doesn't lead to an objective, don't overcommit. Now I'm not saying don't limit test and I'm not saying don't have fun, but be realistic if you're trying to win more often than you lose. Reset, take any camps that are on the map, and now Lee Sin senses that the Graves blue buff is going to be spawning again, and it's time to really elevate the game state by taking the first tower, final plates, the next Herald for a strong push, and to set up the Dragon Soul win condition. This is what it means to be a jungler as you enter the mid game. The goals have shifted, and due to the exemplary, mostly early game, our Lee Sin is juiced and primed. You'd think by now Graves would learn from earlier, but as I said, making sure the enemy jungler is miserable is a rule of life, and this Lee Sin takes it very seriously. Graves says, fool me once, it's on me, fool me twice, and now I'm free. I wonder if he could do it a third time though. Regardless, rotate mid for a skirmish, peel, but be careful. Don't overstay or overpush. Shutdowns in the mid game really swing the nature of the game, and if you manage to escape, do what needs to be done. Don't try and do more. Don't overchase, you don't need a 15-minute ace, and I swear I'm trying not to rhyme, it's just happening, I'll stop. Regenerate on your next camp and focus on doing that second Herald. Reset after the Herald and put yourself in a position for the next objective, the Dragon. Again, I say this a lot, but why do people not get there on time? Are you not punctual to meetings? Are you just 30 minutes late to classes? No. Well, maybe some of you, but this channel is about striving to climb the ladder in League and in life, so be on time for the dragon. They fly in just for you, and that's the approach you have to have, you know? You're not going to leave someone waiting if they're sacrificing for you. And because you know Graves' team will be desperate for whatever they can get at this point, it should be easy enough to trap and kill again. And now it's okay to chase down a little bit provided you have the vision, the numbers, the cooldowns, and the lead, because that dragon will be free anyway, you can always fall back to it. But if a dragon can be free SM with less enemies, that's better. So cure it, and then remember, when I spoke about objectives and gank and lane pressure, this principle translates into the mid and the late game. Is there a teammate you should protect? Maybe they're giga fed and you must have that Knight's Vow, make sure they are peeled with your Lee Sin ultimate. If you are super fed and you're not going, Black Cleaver builds, and you can of course one-shot, say, the enemy Soraka or what have you, then you must know to do that as well. Keep in mind your role in these skirmishes. Now after the securing of the dragon, you could argue for a reset into the red side to counter the top side push, but you can also go on an extended sequence adventure and stay out longer than you normally would to react to the flow of the game. And as I said in the mid game, that can be pretty big for you and for your team, but simultaneously if you misplay it, it's even better for the enemy, so don't become overzealous. Know when to peel, know when to engage, and when you're chunked and have longer cooldowns, know when to skirt the edges of a fight just to be there. Give the sunshine to someone else, you don't need to be a hero, and this is why we talked about this in the 7 sins of jungling. Identifying that part of your game plan and fixing it leads to much better mid games. Now that was quite a quick turnaround. I said you need to elevate the game state, turn up the pace at that second blue buff invade, and that's what separates Challenger from GM to Master to Diamond 4s, which to be honest should be its own category. At this point, the team has well and truly taken over the game, but it was only after 14 minutes, and the conversion to objectives and nice transitions from the early to mid game, and Lee Sin was present to make sure those crucial fights were won. Now in a high elo game like this, it is pretty straightforward in how you close it out. Trigger the Herald to go forth, take over the jungle and make picks to get numbers advantages, use that for inhibs, group up and drive it home. You will watch that unfold before your very eyes, but after this mid-game point around 15 minutes into the late game, it's important to note that core jungling is in essence over. You are now one of the 5 members and each has a responsibility in closing the game or winning the game. That can mean taking a 10k gold lead to the finish line or simply coming back from a 10k gold deficit. That will depend on your champion, and we just released a video on what to do when all lanes are losing. And for the macro discussions, I will leave videos where I've talked about this below that sort of help you in the lower to mid elo so that you know what to focus on to try and drag your team to the finish line. And really, studying high elo for these early games is great, but if you're not in this more coordinated high elo setting, you kinda need that macaroni guide. But I hope you could see how the Lee Sin used gank control, enemy jungler suppression, and objective focus to maintain what it means to be a jungler. We are here to get our lanes ahead, prevent the enemy jungler from stopping that enterprise, and then ensuring our map pathing not only achieves these things, but also secures our team objectives and keeps our farming up to a maximum. The whole battle of a jungler versus a jungler is who can do these three tenets best, who understands what it means to be a jungler early, what it means to be a jungler in the mid game, but also, as you saw, who is able to read, react, and adapt to the game state more successfully than the other jungler. In this game, it was the Lee Sin. In the next game, it might be the Graves. All I know is if we were to summarize jungling, this is how it can be. There are a lot of different advantages, which is why we've spent the whole year doing 33 different gameplay breakdowns. Feel free to let me know if you had a favorite. Remember, as we head into Season 11, what it means to be a jungler. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. Join me on Planet 9 to get that club up and running for some fun tournaments. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to see me on Twitch as well as the gameplay channel. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.